Well, hello friends, this here's David Vos. Today's February 12th, 2016. It's good to see everybody today. Another beautiful day in New Mexico. Love this weather here. Love the climate. I don't think there's better climate anywhere in the world. We only get maybe 2 weeks of winter and 2 weeks of really hot weather in the summer. The rest of the time is perfect. But, well, we're really getting into some really interesting things about the Sumerian tablets and ancient records. I know a lot of you are having a hard time because, remember, we were taught as Christians. Now think back. Most of you were taught pretty much the same thing, no matter what church you were in, that a Christian was very special. And you could only be saved. Now, technically, you can only be saved through Jesus. That's what they would say. That was the line. But in reality, what they're saying is if you're not our church, you're not really saved. Maybe if you're Presbyterian, you could get into Lutheran heaven. You know, if you really, you didn't know any better, you might get in. But none of those Mormons, none of those Jehovah's Witnesses, even though they believe in Jesus, they don't believe in the same Jesus. They're not going to heaven either. So, let's see, there's 5 million Baptists or Lutherans or 10 million, 20 million, whatever. And they're the only ones going to heaven. And most of them aren't going to make it either because they're only going to go to church once a month or only on Easter. So, their heart isn't right. So they're probably not going to make it. See, that's why there's only few that find the narrow gate. So that means that this God in heaven's pretty angry. He's mean. Of course, see, Jesus came, fixed all that, and said, I have grace now. A lot of good that did us because most of us are still going to hell. You see, in fact, it's actually worse now. Because under the Jewish system, this God came down and destroyed about half of them every so often. But at least half of them got to live, right? But in Christianity, we're teaching people that it's only a narrow road that leads to life, and there'll only be few that find it. Very few. Only the Lutherans, if that's what you are. Or if you're a Baptist, it's only Baptists. Or, we'll let a couple of Presbyterians in. Maybe some, but none of those Pentecostals. You see all that crazy stuff they're doing? Well, it doesn't matter they believe in Jesus because they don't have the same beliefs as we do. Well, now what you've really gotten down to is that you've got this firm, this belief that only people who believe in Jesus, he's the only way, you say, which is true, but you just don't understand that. But now, he's the only way, but now you're really narrowing that down because you're saying, well, I know Jehovah's Witnesses believe in Jesus, but it's a different Jesus, so they can't make it either. You see, this is not much difference than the Old Testament. It's just an angry God who's got pretty much something against everybody. Now, it would be all right if he came down here and explained everything to us. Put us all in school, and after a couple of grades you didn't pass, then you went to hell. All right? But it's we're in a world where everything's a lie. Everything we've been told, we're manipulated. We're enticed into drugs from the time we're little. We're running around on the streets in our little diapers, running around, with no shoes on. Nothing to eat, malnutrition. Most of the world don't even have food. And you're going to consign all those people to hell because they didn't know any better? Come on, friends. Take a look around. Look at the puppies. All right? They're all the same. Some of those puppies are mean because they're abused. I've got 2 puppies. I showed you guys my puppies yesterday or the day before. I'll tell you something. I'm learning a lot about puppies. See, I was taught when I was growing up, same as you, a puppy poops on the floor, you rub their nose in it, and you smack them around, throw them out, and, if you're tired of them, you put them to sleep, you go and put them down, right? You don't got time for these dogs, you just put them down. Growing up, that's the way I was taught. I could tell you some stories. We got hungry, we went out and shot a sentient being and ate it. Woo, man, I know most of you think that's just fine. Problem is there's disease in flesh. You ever seen rotten flesh out in the ground? It harbors disease and bacteria. Most of you Christians know that pork has salmonella and this other, I can't remember the name right now, but you get terrible disease from it. You say, well, not the cow meat. It's worse. The cows are living in very, very wicked, bad, torturous conditions. They're sick. They can barely walk. When they fall over, they just shove them into a place, grind them up, and that's what you eat. They can't even walk. They can only live about 1, maybe 2 years, and then they die of some sort of disease. They're pumping them full of antibiotics just to get them to live that long, because there's so much disease and infection in that meat. So what you're eating is hormones, antibiotics, and all kinds of insanity. And look, even a healthy deer in the wild has disease. It travels from ticks and mosquitoes. You see, all the diseases known to man travels through animals. All of it. You don't get a disease from a banana. I'm sorry, friends. You don't get a disease from grass. This is why grass-fed animals are better for you, because they don't have as much disease. But you're still eating flesh that can have disease. And some of these cows, even though they eat grass, can have a disease. They got bit by a tick or something. The point is that if you eat a fruit off of a diseased tree, the fruit's not diseased. If it's got a worm in it, you pull the worm out, but the apple's okay. Large mammals can feed off the animal, and you throw them away, or, if you got a raccoon hanging onto the apple, when you pick it, you get rid of the raccoon, you eat the apple, all right? There's a little worm, you pull the worm off. It's an animal. It's not a bacteria. It's not a virus or a disease. Only meat has disease. Now, I've diverged off my subject because I'm trying to explain to you that we're not made to eat sentient beings. When you cut up an animal, it stinks. The blood is red. That's warning you. This is not danger. This animal is losing its lifeblood. Danger. It stinks. He's crying. You go take that axe to chop off their head, and they're screaming bloody murder. Have you ever tried killing a rabbit? Oh my goodness. Or a pig? That's the most disgusting thing I ever saw in my life, when I watched my uncle kill that pig and skin it out. And then he ate it. Friends, this is just because mankind has done this for thousands of years doesn't mean it's the right thing. This is why we are the way we are. Just because we've had war for thousands of years doesn't mean it's the right thing. Just because the Jewish people sacrificed animals on altars doesn't mean this is the true Father of our heaven and earth who wants us to live like this. We've got to evolve beyond this. Now, I've taken up quite a bit of time to talk about this because I'm going to tell you about my puppies. I found out that if you love them, they'll do anything in the world for you. I found out you don't have to teach them to go to the bathroom. They already know. They're just baby, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks old. They don't know how, they got the runs and they're going to the bathroom all the time. Just like a human baby. A human baby takes them a year or two to learn to walk and talk. Whereas an animal, we expect them to do anything and everything we want within 8 weeks. And if they're not performing at 8 weeks, we start beating them. You see, if you beat an animal and then you abuse them, they're scared. They pee on the floor in front of you because they don't know what to do. You lower their IQ by beating them. You love them and you make their IQ higher. Same with humans. And IQ has a lot to do with love. You allow them to have free expression and they start having love. They start being good people. Okay. Now, why am I talking about all this? Because we've been talking about the beginning of mankind and why we're here. And everybody's running around saying, well, we're Christians, so we know the truth. We're saved. Thank you very much, but we don't need your religion, David. Well, friends, that's just the point. I don't have a religion, and you do. And it's religion that's got you by the tail. It's religion that is deceiving you. Nowhere in the Bible did Jesus ever say, hey, I need you to do this. This is the most important thing I want you to do. I'm going to leave the earth now. I'm going to put Peter and James and those guys in charge, and here's what I want you guys to do. Every Sunday, you got to go to church. Sit there and listen to some particular guy that you choose, Of course, you'll never know who this guy or where he came from. He'll just come into your town, erect a building, and tell everybody, come on down. He'll start saying, I need money, and And you just give him all your money, as much as you can. Because this guy's a saint, right? We're going to call him holy, reverend, father. You call him father. He never said any of this. He never said, now when they pull that plate out and they pass it around, you put as much money as you can in there. Show me how much you love me. Of course, all that money's going to go to the pastor, right? And building more churches and gold rings and robes and holy beads and all kinds of things. It's going to get you out of purgatory if you do this long enough, and say so many prayers. Wake up, friends. This is not reality. If you say, well, we don't do that Catholic stuff with the beads and all the Pope and the fancy buildings. We just got this little building down here and we just get together and talk. But don't you see, you wouldn't even be doing that had it not been for the Catholic Church. This is where it started. This is what religion is. Is people getting together saying, well, now you can't believe in this and you can't believe in that. Here's what you can believe. Now, if you don't believe this, and Jesus has got to be this, and this has got to be, put it into the little mold. What? You can't start thinking for yourself. You don't be asking questions like that. See, most people can't even go to their pastor and ask a question like, how do we know that there's a God? What is God? How do we know Jesus is the only way? You see, if you think that Jesus was some man that came here and died to appease an angry God, your mind is fried. You're going to be spending a long time trying to dig your way out of this. You're going to be angry, and every time somebody comes along that's got a different view, you're going to be judgmental, critical, unloving. Don't you see, friends, this is not what Jesus wanted us to do. Jesus came not to start a religion, but to free us from religion. Jesus said, you see these Pharisees, these Sadducees? They heap, fiery coals upon their own head by demanding that you do something that they can't do. They're hypocrites. Hypocrites, he says. You serpents. Now see, now there's a key. What did he mean by, you are serpent's offspring? What is the serpent, really? In the Garden of Eden, there was a serpent. Now, a lot of people running around today just talking stuff and telling all kinds of stuff, and you think, oh, we're going to go find out from the guru, right? Go to church and he's going to tell me everything. How do you know these guys know anything? They're just making this stuff up, or they read a book and the book said tell them this or whatever, or make for money. They'll tell you whatever they can to sell their book. Friends, I don't want to tell you anything except that you're free, that our Father in heaven loves you, and I'm going to give you an explanation that hopefully will open up the truth to your mind so that you can use your own mind. What I'm telling you is not gospel. I'm not going to write it down and you got to go to church every day and listen to David Vos. I'm just giving you some explanation. This is what I can put some of this stuff together for you. You listen to it. If it makes sense, then you can start using your own mind. See, I'm just trying to help you unlearn all this other stuff that you've been learning. I don't think you need to learn anything. You don't need to know anything I'm telling you. The only problem is that you think that this physical world is everything. And you're kind of schizophrenic in that because you also know you're going to heaven and you know about the temple and all these things, but you don't know anything about what you're talking about. I'm just going to put this forward so that you can take a look at it and then you make your own decision. You don't have to do what I say. You don't have to act the way I act. You don't have to be the way I be or listen or trust me. You can listen if you want. And that's up to you in the privacy of your own home. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. The only thing I care about is that you start thinking for yourself. And like I say, it's going to take a little bit of time to start unlearning a lot of the stuff that we've been force-fed by a ruling class that wanted to keep us down and keep their robes on. They wanted better robes, and they wear white ones and black ones, and special hats. You're right. You got a little beanie cap that makes we're holy. Even the Pope wears that Jewish beanie cap. Now, what's this going on here? We better wake up, friends. We better wake up. So who is the serpent? Well, you're going to read a lot of this stuff lately, and they're going to say, the Anunnaki were birds, right? They were reptilians. Some of them look like serpents. Really? You really think that on some planet, this I guess is what people are thinking, On some planet, somewhere in the universe, there's serpents that have evolved into very intelligent beings. In fact, far more intelligent than humans. Not only is that insanity, but it doesn't even make sense scientifically, which means it's insane. But think about it. On this planet, we've got animals. Now, why does a dog have hind legs? It's got 4 legs. They got that so they could run faster, so they could chase their prey. See, humans don't chase their prey. This is why we're superior to that particular species. We've evolved into a higher form of life. We stand upright. See? And our heart is here, and we put our hand on our heart. We don't have hair all over our bodies, but we're smooth-skinned, and we have wisdom and the capacity to learn because we're human. It would be insane to go and find a world where, in that world, the serpents evolved into the higher species, and you see humans running around on their 4 legs, right? And they're the animals. You switcheroony on you. It's insane. There are no planets where serpents rule. And the planet Orion, or the star system or constellation of Orion, doesn't have serpent people. And Syrians aren't canine. They're not dogs. I'm sorry. Friends, what's eluding everyone is the fact that this is a plan. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's in the Bible. It's in the Sumerian tablets. This is not a story about how some god came to the earth and genetically modified us from birds and reptilians. No. This thing that it's at the base of the pyramid, the Sphinx, is the 4 cardinal signs of the astrological zodiac. It is astrology. And we don't understand astrology very well in modern times. We've really lost the whole meaning to it. This thing is very important. It goes all the way back to our original understanding and the mysteries. So these animal faces that these angels had, that's the cherubim. So some planet that has this dog representation has nothing to do with the fact that they look like dogs. Dogs standing upright. That would be really ridiculous. Wouldn't you think? Somehow or another, dogs learn how to stand upright and walk around, and they're more intelligent than humans on this planet. That's ridiculous. The dog represents something. Look, you've got 4 different natures that are divided up into 12. Now, the 4 natures would be that which is on land, on sea, in the air, and also, because you've got 2 that are on land. You've got the bull and the lion. They're both animals that are on the land. The difference is that the lion is a wild animal, and the bull is a domesticated animal. And then the bird flies in the air, and so you've got 4 different kingdoms. Now, in the wild beast kingdom, the king of the wild beasts is the lion. King of the wild beasts. King of the beasts. Right? Well, the strongest and the king of the domesticated animals is the bull. He's what we use to pull the plow and make our grain. And the king of the sky is the eagle. They are the king of those birds that fly in the sky. It doesn't say a dove. A dove represents grace and peace. But an eagle represents the king of the realm of the air. So you see, what this is saying is that we have these various subtle bodies that we have to come through and overcome. We've got to overcome emotional, spiritual, and physical forces. There are domesticated, programmed physical forces that we've got to overcome that are genetically put into our bodies, that are part of our makeup. We've got a wild nature, and that we have to overcome. We have heavenly attributes. We have emotional attributes, and all of these things are attributes, natures within the human being that we have to overcome. Now, if you look in Ezekiel, it says, I saw and looked, and I beheld visions of God. So, Ezekiel's about to tell you, the prophet of God, and it says, and then I go and I see this vision of God, and this is what I'm going to tell you about this vision. I saw a fire coming and enfolding within itself. And out of the midst of the fire, there was something like 4 living creatures. All right, the fire is that part of the universe that burns and purifies the physical material world. So there's the physical material world that is burned up in the fire, and out of the fire comes forth 4 living creatures, or attributes and natures. Consciousness. Consciousness is born. But the consciousness that's born there are these particular natural orders that the human has in its entirety. Now, if you go into the animal kingdom and you see there's a lion, he's king of the wild beasts. That's as far as it's going to go. He's never going to be king of the air. You're not going to ever see lions flying around up there. All right, he's not going to master that. Humans were put here on this earth to master all of it. We are here to be the lords of the earth. So you see, we've come to master not only that carnal nature, like Jesus did when he came in riding on that donkey. He was riding it and controlling it. He'd gained the mastery over it. All of us have to go through this world. We go into the temple, the physical universe, through one of the doors or the astrological signs. Whatever month you were born in, there's 12 months. Now, is there actually 12 months? We could have split it up into 15, right? Why 12? This is a sacred geometry in mathematics that it's just symbolic of the whole thing. You can divide something up into 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. There are all kinds of ways. But the sacred geometry has already been made up with 360 degrees. There's 12 in that. And each 60-minute mark has 60 seconds. It's by tens and 360 and by 9. See, everything times 9 is 9. It's a sacred geometry that we can't go into in this video. But the point is that it's all symbolic to explain the universe to you. And you, as a child of our Heavenly Father, are the exact duplicate of the entire cosmos. So everything is within you, and you're growing up to become an heir to all things. You're going to overcome the sky, the earth, the water, and all the natures of the creation is embodied in you. And one by one, you overcome all of these natures. Now that fire that's unfolding itself, see, the light comes from the center of the galaxy. As it begins to go forth throughout from the inner galaxy towards the outer part, it gets to a place about halfway and it starts blowing up into these nebulas. See, consciousness shifts. The light begins to enfold within itself, and out from this fire, from this suffering and from this burning, and from this deep desire, comes these natures and attributes that we now are going to experience and go into incarnations and become human beings and live for a time and you know, understand what it's like to fly. See, as humans, we have to go through the animal kingdom. We have to go through life and transform our consciousness through all of these animal natures. When we finally become a man, which is the height of the whole thing, the ruler of all 4 kingdoms, it's like we've come to our finish, the end of the class. When it comes to man, he finally reaches the pinnacle, and we become the rulers of this dominion. Now, beyond this, there are far more things that we're going to be doing. There's glories upon glories that we're going to receive. But in this world, we're at the pinnacle. We're human beings. We've overcome all of these animal-like natures and attributes, and now we're ready to be reborn in a spiritual sense and receive all that information and training and the essence of what we've done and bring that into the spiritual and return to our Father in heaven with these experiences. So the serpent was in the garden. That is our Bible says there was a serpent wound around a tree, and he deceived Adam and Eve. The Sumerian tablets explain that Enki made a garden. Our Bible says that's Jehovah. The Sumerian tablet says Enki Eya, Yahweh, began to bring Adam and Eve into this physical form. And he in the Sumerian tablets talks about these two serpents wound around this pole. We still have this caduceus today, and medical sciences still use this symbolism because it's about the DNA. It talks about this in the Sumerian tablets. This is the DNA that they were working with. But it's not just that some mad, crazy Frankenstein scientist that was trying to manipulate humans. This is talking about a plan that was put into place. Now, you know that there are 12 of these natures, right? The bird and the bull and the fish and all these other things. Well, isn't it interesting that Anu, there are the 12 gods. There were 6 males and 6 females that were these 12 beings that created human beings. You say, well, our Father in heaven created us. Yes, but we're also evolving from these other natures. The gods were certain consciousnesses. One god was a bird, one god was a bull, one god was a lion. Not really. They didn't look like lions. This is talking about forces of nature, archons, aeons, attributes. This is what created mankind. Our Father is guiding the whole thing through fate. If you look at the book of the Sumerian tablets, it talks about the destinies and the fate. And when, it talks about how Enki and Enlil were discussing this with Anu, and they were saying, well, we've just nuked the planet, right? Or we've got to, cause a great war and get rid of this Marduk guy, right? Because he's causing all this harm and we're going to destroy the world. Well, it's kind of funny because we started off on Nibiru with our planet being close to destruction. We came here to find new life, to fix it. And now here we are at the destruction of the planet Earth. And they said, I guess it's all destiny, and there was nothing we could do about saving our planet. And we've learned a great lesson, that there is fate and there's destiny. And they wanted to know, is this fate or destiny? But they determined that there were things that they couldn't foresee, things that would happen, that would be like destiny. And then there were things that were fate. They were, regulated and commissioned by a higher power that they didn't even understand, the creator of all. And they knew that they were not necessarily in charge. And they said, that which is first will be that which is at the end. And that which is at the end will be that which is first. And that's funny because that's what Jesus said. So now we have a little bit of an idea what Jesus meant by that. Because he was there when this was said. It's this human being that's looking at the fate of humans and the destinies of mankind and wondering, does our Father in heaven really love us? Is all of this for a purpose? You see, these particular beings didn't know. They weren't our Father in heaven. See, this fire that's unfolding itself that Ezekiel saw is the Orion Nebula. It's a fire unfolding itself. And at that point in the galaxy where these particular nebulas are, I don't think that's the only one. There's these nebulas all around the galaxies. But they tend to be prevalent in certain area of the galaxies, about halfway out. And it says, and so our existence, when we were back in the light, we weren't just this particular ego. David Vos didn't exist in the light. I was part of the whole. And the light went forward. When I got to that place where I was, going forward and learning and having all these experiences, and we can't even imagine what those might have been. We were light beings at that time. We were children of our Father growing. We got to the nebula, the Orion Nebula, and various other nebulas around the galaxy. We had a consciousness shift, and we began to shift our consciousness into these lower frequencies that we could overcome these things. Jesus said he descended far below all things that he might ascend far above all things. And he conquered these principalities, powers, dominions, and lordships, which were these demonic cherubim. The Bible says that the cherubim fell from heaven.